my personal belief is the role of marketing will become even more important as the technical barrier to creating products get lower, because the more products there are in the market, the more cluttered there will be. And what will be really important is how you're able to differentiate and build distribution. And that's where marketers come into being. The core should still be how well you are able to understand your customers and their problems, how well you resonate with their issues. AI capabilities will just help us scale it to a new level.
You are listening to This is Product Marketing, brought to you by Product Marketing Hive, the product marketing community that gives back. Product Marketing Hive and this podcast are supported by Product Marketing Edge, a technology product marketing consulting firm. In this episode, Anubhav Rao shares his thoughts on scaling hyper-personalized messaging with AI. Let's dive into it right now. Hi, Anubhav. Welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for having me.
Great, great. Before we get started with today's topic, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into product marketing?
Absolutely. I'll just give a quick context of how I started and how I got into marketing to begin with. I actually did my undergrad in computer science, but I was always fascinated by how stories and art can shape the perception of the society, and that really intrigued me. So after I was done with my undergrad, I actually joined a tech media startup back in India at a very early stage. And what they used to do was create short form content like videos and articles for platforms like Facebook and YouTube. And the entire focus was to create content that can organically become viral. So there was a lot of science involved in terms of it wasn't just like gut instinct, but based on real time engagement and feedback from the audience to understand what they like, what they don't like. I kind of did everything and anything there, but mostly helped scale the business development team from scratch. I was there for around 4 years, and by the time I left, the company had become India's largest digital entertainment company, reaching more than 50 million people on a weekly basis. And I think that's where I understood the importance of distribution. There's a quote which says that first time founders think product is king, second time founders know distribution is queen. And I have always realized how important that is. So when I moved to California to do my MBA, I got to know about the title product marketing. And when I got deeper into it, I realized it's a role that really is super important to build and scale distribution and make sure that your product gets the right awareness and the right adoption. So that really fascinated me. And I kind of started my journey as a product marketer, did a couple of internships at school, then joined a cloud company. And right now I'm a product marketer with Amazon Web Services in the Gen AI and dev tool space, making sure where I'm focusing on getting these services to market, which has been really exciting.
That's very interesting. The AI industry right now is changing really, really fast and dramatically, especially with the generative AI space. I was wondering, for some of our audience who are not following very closely as an insider, can you paint us a picture of just exactly how fast this space is moving?
Yeah, no, I think the last 12 to 18 months have been crazy. I think we've gone from a stage of AI being like research, curiosity oriented, to now seeing real world applications. But there's still so much progress that can happen in a very short time, in fact, that it's exciting to see what's going to come. But just to give some context on what has happened in the last 12 to 18 months, it all started with the implosion of ChatGPT, where people got curious about seeing an AI capability that can have a semi decent conversation with you. But since then, we have now fast forwarded to really strong natural language learning models where you can engage in free form conversations. They can really digest and analyze complex data and give you great insights. Plus, we are seeing these tools being able to code and write almost at a level as good as beginner programmers or beginner writers. So that has been really interesting. But we are seeing a lot of progress even on the generation side of things. A lot of players in the industry are working in air, and we even have like obviously we have all the big tech companies doing it, but there are a lot of startups as well, uh, kind of focusing on these capabilities. And the exciting thing would be like you'll obviously have these generic purpose large language models, but then you will have these large language models specifically focusing on particular tasks and particular capabilities, which could be even more powerful than the generic ones. So So I feel I'm really excited about it. I think it will unleash a lot of creativity amongst humans around the world. Plus, it would be a great power for marketers to kind of scale personalization with these image generation and video generation tools as well.
Yes, yes, quite exciting. You've had experience of developing personalized messaging in the past. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
I have had experience of building data driven product messaging or even like personalized messaging at a little bit of scale. To give you some context, the startup that I had mentioned that I worked back in India, our product back then was basically content, because the business model was that we increase our distribution through engaging content through videos and articles that have an organic viral distribution. And the revenue model was integrating brands within it. So instead of, let's say, a Google paying uh, Facebook ads or any company doing a paid ad on YouTube, we would say it's better to be part of our story, because then you could be part of an organic story that people are engaging and actually want to see, instead of a paid ad that they'll just skip. So you'll have higher engagement and get better ROI through that. So to give you an example of how we would really cater to our audience insights and like understand their personalized preferences is, we would actually start with pilot programs in terms of our formats, see the themes that people liked, and then build on it. So one example is, we did some small memes on Instagram about boyfriend girlfriend or couple related content, and we saw that people really liked it. So we then created a 2-3 minute YouTube video around a topic like irritating things boyfriends do or confusing things girlfriends do. And the entire content thesis is that we are creating relatable tropes and scenes that people can relate to. And back then we had maybe 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. And those two videos organically became so viral that each of them had like 10 million views organically, just because people were sharing and relating to that. And then we would reply to everyone's comment to understand what scene they liked, what things they would like in the future. And based on that, we actually created a web series, which was a 5 episode web series in India, that again on the same topic with the same actors, that became India's largest consumed web series on YouTube with like 30 million views or something. In fact, it became so popular that Netflix started a conversation with us and they acquired that web series. And then the other 3 seasons were done on Netflix. So it became like, just from those data driven insights and talking to your customers and understanding their needs, we went from a meme to creating India's longest running Netflix show ever. So this was an example of, like truly scaling content or your product based on personalized feedback and engagement with your audience.
I see. Can you tell us what are some of the main challenges that you've faced developing personalized messaging without the help of AI? How did it go? Like, can you tell us a little bit more about that story?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest challenge always has been engagement and content generation at scale. Like I said, we were a small team, kind of doing everything and anything, making sure that we are really connecting with our audience and getting the right feedback. One of the ideas I had was, where else can we go? And one of the platforms which was unexplored was WhatsApp, because WhatsApp has traditionally been just for one to one peer conversation or group chats. I know they have some business capabilities then, but back then, 6 years ago, there was nothing. So I kind of started this thing where we would let people know on our other social media platforms that, hey, if you want this content even on your WhatsApp and you want to talk to us, you can message us on XYZ number, and we'll share some really cool content every week or every day. And the process was so manual and so tiring. It worked like this: they will WhatsApp us on the number we shared on other platforms, then I'll add that number individually, add them to a broadcast list, and one broadcast list couldn't have more than 256 people. So I would create multiple broadcast lists and then send content to all those broadcast lists, and people love talking to us. So if they reply we want to make sure that we are replying to them, and then I'll be replying to individual messages. So once we started scaling that, it became like almost impossible. Like at one point we literally had like three phones and hired an intern to kind of keep that engagement and conversation going. But after a point, even the phones kind of started tanking because they couldn't just handle so many WhatsApp conversations and like people. So I guess that was an example of a bottleneck to scale content or personalized engagement back then. But now with AI, and I'm not saying I don't know what WhatsApp business capabilities are now, but now you can actually generate content at scale to really build that hyper personalized marketing, which wasn't there earlier. And I think that's really exciting.
That's great. Thank you for sharing. That's very interesting. Let's talk about AI to make it more hyper personalized.
Yeah, I can give an example of like now you don't need 10 other people to kind of even give you that meme or short video. If you have an idea, you can use generative AI to create that short form content and see if your audience is reacting to it. And if they are liking it, you can accordingly scale it. So the content was product then, but if your product is a SaaS app, then you can still do hyper personalization by maybe having separate web page CTAs for separate people. Now you don't need a static web page for all your audience, because your audience could be a designer or a developer, or it could be an end user versus a decision maker. So based on those outputs, when they are reaching the website, the content they will see or the messaging they will see will be based on their needs. So just engaging with your audience and just really personalizing to their needs is even more simpler now, which is really exciting. I think there was the recent example, which was all over the news, that something like Klarna did, right? Even though it wasn't a traditional marketing campaign, but they were able to replace like 90% of their customer success asking and answering audience questions through AI. And they saw maybe like a 80% efficiency or time reduction in solving those issues. For a lot of companies, customer success might not be traditionally, let's say, your demand generation or something, but it's still part of your customer experience cycle and how they engage with your brand. I felt that was a pretty good example.
I see. Can you tell us what are some of the main challenges product marketers can expect to face in the process and how to address them?
Yeah, I think the number one challenge would be data quality and governance, because it's really important to have a single source of truth, which is robust customer data as the core basic, right? Because ensuring data accuracy and completeness and privacy compliance uh, would be way more important in the future, not just for ethical and legal reasons, but also to make sure that the output could be personalized messaging and content for your specific audience. Because obviously, these models are being trained on billions of parameters from the internet. But if you have to reach out to your specific audience, their interests and their profile will be specific to your brand and product. So having that data quality ingrained in your company culture would be a big challenge right now. Then obviously, right now you cannot guarantee 100% reliability uh, from AI models. There can still be some hallucination and incorrect information. So, as marketers, you need to really implement strong guidelines and human oversight in your operations and processes to make sure you have guardrails against possible hallucinations and problematic generated content. You can't just rely on 100% automated process and think that it can do everything for you. You still have to be the brains behind the possible creativity and your brand guidelines. So I think people should just kind of keep that in mind, that it's more of a helping tool to kind of unleash their creativity and like how they engage with their audience, but they should still oversee and have a good human oversight alongside these processes. And I think third could just be maybe that cultural shift in terms of organizational change. This would be a new process for a lot of people. This would might have initial friction in making people realize that they should use it and why they should use it. So just kind of overcoming that cultural resistance uh, for creative roles could be an initial obstacle. so that internal education can be important as well. And then obviously, I guess fourth is your ethical and regulatory considerations. A lot of laws are still being formed around AI created media assets and data privacy. So, at the core, I feel audience and your customer should always be the first thing, and you should always think how you can serve them better without hiding anything from them. So, that transparency and ethical guideline, as always, would be super important.
Very interesting. So I was curious about how do you see the future of AI in marketing and customer engagement is going to evolve in the next, let's say, because it's moving fast, 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think it's hard to predict the timeline because this can happen in the next 6 months or 1 year or 2 years. But being able to scale content everywhere, it'll, instead of it being an innovative capability, it will become a baseline expectation to have dynamic, personalized experiences through generated content at scale. We will see product recommendations, personalized messaging sequences, uh, individual experiences for tens of millions, if not billions, of customers simultaneously. Like, I think segmentation as we know it will become obsolete. And then there's obviously uh, real time adaptation of your campaigns. I think we would be able to figure out, and I know we can do with A/B testing now, but it'll reach a completely new level where you can in real time figure out uh, if the campaigns you are sending to a particular audience is working or not, and change the messaging accordingly. You can figure out what the right time is. Should it be morning or evening or afternoon? And even like orchestrated channel recommendation, like is the best time to send something as a push notification versus an email campaign versus something else. And I think AI tools can help us do that uh, on their own or through our guidance. And that would really kind of bring real time adaptive experiences at a whole new level. So that should be really exciting.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you for tuning into This is Product Marketing, brought to you by Product Marketing Hive, a product marketing community that gives back. Check out our website, productmarketinghive.com, to join our community, meet fellow product marketers, and access free resources. If you enjoyed our podcast, please subscribe and give a 5-star rating on the platform of your choice. See you next time.